My next guest on the Hoodie Chronicles podcast is a friend of mine, Bakari Copeland, also known as Glitch, who played college basketball at Maryland Eastern Shore and also played professionally overseas. These days, he can be found playing with the Harlem Wizards, a show basketball team that travels around the country, doing all kinds of good stuff, fundraisers and all that for the kids. And he's also multi-talented as an entertainer, actor, had a Super Bowl commercial and all that good stuff. So let's talk some ball. What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. So I think we first met. I think it was January 2nd, 2017, and
Yeah.
it was at the Pitt game when you guys played Pitt.
Yeah.
You were with Maryland Eastern Shore. Obviously, you know that, but for the people that don't know, and I want to tell you some things that I wrote down from that game. I don't have the article that I wrote about that game because I used to go to Pitt, as often as I could and cover some games, being from down the street in Charleston,
Yeah.
West Virginia. But I wrote down that you were very athletic, physical, and you had 16 points in the first half. And I had the unis look like the Marcus Camby days at UMass. And I also said that Maryland Eastern Shore was small in comparison to Pitt. So just and I think the final was 92-58. So just tell me, do you remember anything about that game? And I know you played at, some rather big colleges. You played at Michigan, Virginia Tech, Pitt, I think Missouri.
Yeah.
So just talk to me about, do you remember anything about that game, or, tell me a little bit about your senior season, the aspirations that you had to play ball overseas or NBA?
Yeah. I can tell you for sure about that game. That's one of the most memorable games because, for one, I love playing basketball on Sundays, and I
That was a
love
Sunday?
weekend games. And yeah. I
Okay.
love playing on the weekend in general. And I remember as soon as I walked in the gym, I said, "Dang, it smelled like somebody's like cooking a home cooked meal in here." And then I saw they had a kitchen like right on the floor, like in that little back area. So I was like, it just gave like feel good vibes. Definitely remember having 16 points in the first half. I know what actually turned me up that game was one of my teammates, Dev Martin. He's from Baltimore, and on Pitt they had Jamel Artis, who was a Baltimore
Right.
native, and they were kind of like chirping back and forth and kind of got me involved. So I was already coming in focused, along with one of my junior college teammates, Jonathan Milligan, was on the team, who I just played with that prior season at Kilgore College. So I was already locked in. I was ready to show out. So all that stuff got me going. And also I had one of my best highlights of the season. I think I went baseline. I forgot what two people jumped, but ended up dunking on two people in that play. So that's one of the most memorable games. But as a whole, for my senior season, my goal was to win the championship, but also I was chasing for player of the year. I think I finished off losing the player of the year by one vote. And at that time it was NBA aspirations, but I was always open to taking a different route going overseas. So it
I
was
think you
great.
scored 20 or more in what, 11 times as a senior, had 20 or more?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. I think I finished up averaging 17 points and 6 rebounds for the season, somewhere around there.
I do remember, that because I think I saw the highlight last night, but I didn't know if it was from a season or two before or from that game. Because, like I said, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
We played Pitt my junior season. That was my junior year.
that was your junior year.
Yeah, I was a
Okay.
junior. Mhm.
When you went overseas to play ball, I've talked to a lot of NBA players and a lot of players coming out of college that took that route overseas. But for you, what was the biggest adjustment, getting overseas? Because I know a lot of guys say, staff or less of a staff or more of a staff. So things like that as far as medical goes. But for you, what was the biggest adjustment?
So me, I'm used to being able to be in a situation and making a lot with a little. So the staff and all that stuff, already wasn't expecting it to be as like luxurious or whatever you want to call it as compared to the States. So I think the biggest thing was the language barrier. My first place was Argentina, and nobody spoke English at all, like not even my teammates. And I ended up getting an American on my team probably a few months after the season started. So I'm walking around all of Argentina. It was called Santiago del Estero. I'm walking around the whole city with a translator. So that was the hardest part. But when you get on the court, regardless of what language it is, basketball talk is all one language. So on the court, it was fine, but it was just living that life off the court. My first year, that kind of made it harder. But the more years I started going to different countries like Portugal, Switzerland, everyone spoke English. So it made it more of a regular environment for me. So I enjoyed my time overseas, the time I was over there.
So I went to school with a dude who ended up going. I think he went to Germany and played ball for a while. And there was
Mhm.
a lot of a lot of them speak English, but a lot of them don't. So he was like, I think he had his mom send him a PlayStation or something because he was like, I can't go out and mingle with people. I need something to
Right.
do. So you got to send me like a PlayStation or something. This was in the early 2000s.
Yeah. See, that actually, so I used to play video games when I was a kid, but I stopped probably like in middle school. But when I went overseas, that's when I started back playing video games. So I had bought a PlayStation 4 at the time. It's like 2017. So I bought a PlayStation 4, and it kind of was a good thing outside of the video game because that's when I started to really tap into my other interests and other hobbies. I'm like, I have so much free time. I know when I was in Portugal, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to just do something that nobody has ever really done before, which is start a music career while I'm overseas playing basketball because I always love to make music just for fun though. But I'm like, if I'm out here, I might as well try and go all the way. So I was performing in clubs. I was on the radio station. I was trying to make the most of just being over there with all that free time.
So we'll get to all that extra stuff because you got your hand in many cookie jars too. You know, you're an entrepreneur and you do a lot. So we'll get to that. But I also wanted to talk to you about delay is not denial. So tell me the origin story of that and where that came from.
So that started in 2015 when I went, no, 2014. I played my freshman year at Charleston Southern University from 2013 to 2014. Wanted to transfer after my freshman year, and then found out I had to go to junior college. So mentally, just coming from great high school career, um, going into my freshman year, expecting it to be amazing off rip, and then kind of I don't even want to call it a setback because I needed to do it. So, but mentally, I wasn't mature enough to understand that at the time. My mom was always telling me that God's delay is not Him denying you of what's to come. It's more of just preparing you. So, what you may think is a closed door may just be a delay in Him preparing you for that next stage that you want to be at. So then, I kind of just broke it down that way. I could just say it quicker. So I was like, dang, delay is not denial. And then it just, when she told me that, it did something to my body, my spirit, and it just changed my whole mindset, like got me back locked in. So I said, yeah, delay is not denial. I'm gonna live that for every aspect of my life, not even just basketball, but everything in life that I want to do. If it doesn't happen on my time, then that doesn't mean it can't happen. So once I had that in 2014, it just stuck with me. Then 2017, I got it trademarked right before I went overseas, and it's just been my quote. And I kind of feel like God had put me on earth to relay that message to everybody, like to be the inspiration to kids, adults, whatever, and really just preach that quote to them. So that's been
So I
my
was going to
thing.
say, I mean, you've adopted that as sort of your personality, and you take it everywhere you go. And I knew it had been around for a while, but I just didn't know the origin story of it. That's why I wanted to ask. But I also wanted to talk. You have it on your social media. I think you have something like a kid from east side of Atlanta, something like that. Doing
Yeah,
everything that you've done. Like I said, you do
yeah,
so much, and landing the Super Bowl commercial with Marshawn Lynch and Spike Lee, and I Show Speed. So just tell me about the filming process of that and how that went, and how much you enjoyed that.
yeah. So we filmed that in. I think I did the audition for it the last week of November, and I remember when I first saw the casting for it, and I didn't know it was for Meta. I didn't know it was for the Super Bowl. All I knew was that it said a sunglasses commercial. So at that point, I'm thinking it could be Ray-Bans, could be who knows. So I saw it, I was like, look like a good opportunity. Um, did the audition, got the call back, and went to the callback audition in New York. They wanted me to do a few dunks. I guess at that point they were trying to look for who they wanted to dunk for the commercial, and end up booking it not as a dunker, but they actually made a different role for me in the commercial because they said they saw something in me that they wanted to use for the commercial outside of what they originally were casting for. So brought me in for that, and then I remember um the day before our first rehearsal when they sent the call sheet and everything. I saw one of my teammates on the call sheet. His name Jordan Sutherland. People know him as 1 foot guy. Crazy dunker, amazing dunker, probably the best dunker I've ever met in my life. But saw us both on the sheet, and they had cast him as a dunker, and they had me as it wasn't really a name, but I'm the guy that's like throwing them the oop and doing all this other stuff in the commercial. But we got the set, did the rehearsal. By the way they were setting up the camera, I said, dang, I'm gonna get a lot of screen time. So that was gonna be cool. And then the next day, when we actually came to set, that's when I found out Spike Lee was in our scene. And I had worked with Spike Lee the past 2 years on some Capital One commercials. So it wasn't my first time meeting him, but it's always good to see him because I don't see him too often. Um, and it was something else. That day is when I found out that it was gonna be a Super Bowl commercial. And it was gonna be a Meta Glasses commercial.
You
So
didn't
I didn't
know
know
it
any
until
of that.
that day.
Yeah, I didn't know before I walked on set, I didn't know it was gonna be Super Bowl or Meta. I didn't know how big the opportunity was gonna be. So that was a blessing and definitely a surprise.
So, what are some of your best experience? Filming commercials and whatever else that you've done. What was, the funnest things that you dealt with? Because I wanted to ask you too. I'm a huge fan of Ernie Johnson. Have been, since I
Yeah,
was a kid. So, I know
yeah.
you did something with him. So, what was some of your, your best experiences that you've had filming? And tell me about meeting Ernie Johnson.
I'll tell you this. That commercial you just said is probably, I don't like to say favorite because everyone I do holds its own great value to me. But that one right there that you just said, I don't think anyone's ever going to outweigh that one because that was my very first commercial of all time. Like that was my very first one that I ever did back in 2019. Um, I'll tell you a quick story about that one. I auditioned for it, found out when I got there that Ernie Johnson was going to be in the commercial, but I didn't find out until they were putting us on the court in the placements, and I saw the call sheet. It just said EJ, but at that point, I didn't know it meant Ernie Johnson. Then, as soon as the cameras came out, he walked out. I said, "No way, I'm about to do a commercial with Ernie Johnson." So
That
that was the
dude's the
first
coolest
one.
dude.
And
He's the coolest guy in the room.
man, he is such a great, genuine dude, and I had to let him know right then and there. I told him, I said, "Yo, you've been one of my favorite guys just on the whole basketball scene for as long as I can remember." And it's just, I told him it was a blessing to work with him. It was one of the best days of my life, and he made it so easy. He helped me out so much. He's not like those celebrity guys. I think they're too big. He's just a normal human being, and that's all you can ever ask for with that kind of situation. Like he was so open to every question I had. We even talked about me playing overseas in that commercial, and it was for March Madness. And I, you know what I'm saying, that was
Mhm.
2 years of me being removed from college. So that it don't get no better than that. So that's gonna be number one on my list forever.
So you played against, I believe it's Central Florida. You played against Tacko Fall. So I want to talk to you about, the size of some of the players that you played against, and was he the biggest one that you played against? Because I think he's what, seven
That's no.
five, something like that.
Oh, is I thought he was like 8'3". That day, the day I played him,
Oh,
I thought he was
yeah,
over 8 feet.
that
I
too.
thought he was. No, he's for sure the tallest person I ever played. But what people really don't know about Taco, he's 7'5", but he doesn't move like Wemby. But for somebody to be 7'5", he can actually move very well. Like the way he was running, I was like, yo, he's actually like pretty athletic. And off the court, he's very smart. I think he was
Mhm.
in college studying like chemistry or something, like to be a scientist or something like that. So he's a very smart guy as well. But he's definitely the biggest person I ever played. And a few times I had to guard him, got dunked on. But I mean, what you gonna do?
Nothing you can do about it.
Nothing.
So who, NBA player wise, as far as you playing overseas, who did you get to meet and who did you draw inspiration from? And some of the players throughout your college career, who did you get inspiration from?
I'll probably say I got so many players. I remember my first favorite player of all time was Jason Terry because I'm an Atlanta kid. I used to go to the Hawks game. I used to love Jason Terry. Just his swag, shooter. Um, I take a lot of stuff from Ray Allen. He's actually one of the reasons that I shoot a jump shot and not a set shot because I always love the way Ray Allen shot the ball. Um, I love the leadership and personality of LeBron James. I try to sprinkle that into any team that I'm on, and I love the jab series of Carmelo Anthony. That's probably my favorite attribute about basketball. Just that whole jab series, getting to the mid range, one-on-one isolation. So those guys are for sure my top favorites. And I love the passion of Kevin Garnett. If I had to create a
Right,
player, I would take
absolutely.
all of those and just put it in one person.
Are you as good as a talker as he is?
Is Melo?
As Garnett?
Oh, it's Garnett. Ooh,
Yeah.
as good as I'm
I mean,
probably
I
just as
doubt
good.
you could be as good as him, but he's just he has this
I'm
aura
probably
about him,
I'm probably just as good as a talker, but he's just gonna talk way more than I am.
and you
Like he
probably
just
keep it a little cleaner than he does too.
yeah. I gotta keep it. I gotta keep it a little bit more clean. But he's
Right.
not gonna stop me. I'll talk, play. He just gonna keep talking regardless if he got 0 points or 100 points. So gotta respect it.
So, what's some things we can look forward to in the future with you coming up? What all do you have?
Um, I'm currently playing with my team, the Harlem Wizards, where I'm the showman on my team. We're an entertainment basketball team who does fundraising around the country for different schools. So you can catch me traveling with them. I have a lot of more commercials that's actually about to come out soon. I do a lot of work with DraftKings Sportsbook, so I have a lot of commercials coming out with them and a few other companies that can't talk about till they come out. But yeah, my goal is to keep going with the acting, get into TV and film, and I actually want to get into sports broadcasting, mainly with women's basketball, with women's college basketball and WNBA. So that's one of my current goals right now, trying to break into that industry.
All right. So I've got one more for you, then I'll get you out of here. So, what is something that you want people to know about you that they may not?
Want something that people may not know about me. I feel like I'm such an open book. I feel like there's no way you can't know anything about me. Because as far as social media, like I'm very like myself. Like I don't really hide anything. So I feel like everything I show is who I am. Um, if I had to say one thing though, one thing that people don't know about me, I'll say that I'm not fearless when it comes to chasing something that I want. Like how I just told you, I want to get into sports broadcasting. I know some people in life, they may have goals, but may be scared to share with the world or whatever. Me, I put out on the table what I want, and I'm gonna try to get it. And I'm not gonna say I don't care if I fail or not, but I'm the type person. If I failed, that mean I tried. So that's what my parents taught me. If you want something, you gotta try and get it. And if you get it or not, you did your part, which is try. So I'm fearless when it comes to getting something that I want or chasing something that I want.
I saw you doing the backflip too. Was the backflip something that you did? I just thought of this in college or overseas, or were your coaches
No,
like, you need to pump the brakes a little bit on that?
nah. So when I was a kid, I used to do a lot of backflips in elementary school. So what's crazy is I just started doing backflips last September because I wanted to use
Oh,
it for
okay.
my intro with my Harlem Wizard team. And then I said, I'm just gonna keep trying to perfect it. So I started off with the backhand springs, got confident off of that, started flipping off the bleachers, and then last week I did the cartwheel into the backflip with no hands. So I'm just trying to keep going. But I just love trying new things. Like I feel like life is about trying new things and just to, you know what I'm saying, keep everybody on their toes. You never know like what I might do. So who knows?
Well, thank you so much, man. I'm glad we could catch up. Like I say, we'll see each other on social media, and good luck in the future with anything that you do.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me on too.
I appreciate it. We'll have to do it again.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Take care.